neuroplasticity. I even said it correctly. You should be impressed, Ben.
Neuroplasticity.
Oh, I didn't say it correct.
Say amygdala, Dan.
No, I can't even. I'm liable to say a dirty word accidentally or something. So, no, I'm not even going to try that one. We're talking about the mystery of the brain today, how it relates to our mental health, anxiety, or joy. Which do we choose? My name is Dan. I'm with Ben. We're the teaching pastors at Life Fellowship, and this is Life Talks. And we started an interesting episode in our previous volume, and that we were talking about what happens whenever something startles us, something big happens to us. Do we have flight? Do we have fright? Or do we freeze? What are the pathways that are a part of our grand design and God's construction of our brains? Can they be changed? Does it require some supernatural intervention, or is natural pathway of natural responses good enough? That's where we left off. Ben, we're going to pick up where we left off. Tell us, how do we go from the fact that on our cul-de-sac, we have
some close neighbors that want to keep that amygdala always active.
Yes,
and
but
so
we've decided we're going on to the freeway.
Yeah, we want to create. Here's the beauty of how God's created us. You don't have to. You can cut down those roadways to the HPA axis. You don't have to live off cortisol. There's actually another hormone that your brain produces that is called serotonin. Have you heard of serotonin before?
I have heard of it.
Serotonin's a very you want serotonin when you are at the beach and you're sitting there and you are just enjoying life. Your brain is kicking out some serotonin, man. I mean, it's just like life is good. Serotonin is the hormone in your brain that is released to help moderate your mood, moderate your emotions. And the more serotonin your brain is producing, the more you're able to see, hear, to intake information and able to say, I think we can handle that. Okay?
All right. So most of us who are familiar with the term serotonin are familiar with it because we've seen ads on TV that speak, I believe they are SSRIs and SNRIs.
Okay. There's two different drugs that you can take.
So if that is our point of reference on these, can you explain to us what those drugs do?
Yeah, I mean, basically, what those again, we're getting into some really what I would call sticky issues.
Yes. We are not doctors. We do not play them on TV, but we're just trying to give you a basic understanding.
I'm gonna talk about medication, and there are Christians that have a lot of different viewpoints on Christians and taking psychosomatic drugs.
Right, and we're not telling you what to believe. We are just telling you this is.
I can give you my opinion.
Yeah.
And it's just my opinion.
Exactly.
Because if you were to ask my opinion, I would give you my opinion. Okay.
Yes.
And you could probably, the biggest thing I will tell every single person listening to me talk about this right now is this. Number one, do your own research. Do your own research. Because I'm going to say two things to you. Number one, if you, fundamentally, I believe there are way too many people on drugs than need to be on drugs. I believe that with all my heart. I think way too many people are taking things that they don't need to be taking. But yes, so SSRIs, which basically stand for selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, what they do, and SNRIs are very similar to those. They basically help produce a bioavailable artificial serotonin to your brain, and so. One of the things about that is it's kind of feeding your brain serotonin to help kind of pick up your mood. Now, here's one of the things you got to understand about these SSRIs and SNRIs. They will help moderate. And so let's just say on a scale of 1 to 10, right? 1 is I'm depressed and I hate my life and nothing, and you're hopeless and depressed or anxious or whatever thing. And then 10 is life is great. I'm just enjoying life to the max. I'm happy. I'm joyful, all that kind of stuff. What SSRIs will do typically is they will help keep you at like a 4 to 5. They will keep you mid-range. They keep you from feeling really bad, but they also keep you from feeling really good. They are basically holding you in a place. Now, So the reason why I say do your research is because I've done my own research on these things. And, an example of SSRI would be, Prozac, Zoloft, Paxil. Maybe you've heard some of those drug names before. That they all are. I look at these kind of psychosomatic drugs as I would look at a cast. All right, a cast that you would put on your arm, or a Band-Aid. I believe that they are useful for certain opportunities for people that really kind of are in a spiral, or they are. You've got to kind of seize the momentum of spiraling emotionally.
In other words, you do not have to worry about taking them the rest of your life.
Right. I would say my suggestion would be, again, look at it as a cast. Okay. If you broke your leg, or broke your arm, you put a cast on to make sure the arm would set right.
Stabilize
it. Okay. Or a Band-Aid, just kind of put something on there until that scab heals. One of the things you got to remember, though, is it doesn't really help you solve the root issues of the anxiety. Okay. So when people want to be on SSRIs for the rest of their life, it would have the same effect of the issue. Okay, so if the brain is a muscle, and you don't work out that part of your brain, it's going to get
it'll atrophy.
Think about have you ever put ever had a cast in your life?
No.
You've never had a cast?
Nope.
Oh, Britt, you've had a cast before, right? No? I've had multiple casts on my body.
Well, you're kind of clumsy.
Yeah. I always do this joke with kids because I broke my elbow twice, and I broke the growth plates on my elbow. And so I always do this trick with kids. I said, I broke my elbow twice. Can you see the difference? And I'll hold my one arm out, that's longer than the other. And they don't know I'm just doing a simple trick. They're like, oh my goodness, I didn't even realize that.
He's a freak.
But when you put a cast on your leg or on your arm and you keep it there for 6 weeks, 8 weeks, whatever, you take it off, what does your leg or arm look like?
Pale and shriveled.
It looks pale and shriveled. You're like, what happened? Because you're not using that muscle, and the muscle atrophies. And your brain is the same way. The way God created your brain was actually to produce serotonin. And what we're finding out with science is that science has proven that there's a way your brain can increase the levels of serotonin naturally. Now, the reason I say do your homework, because many of these drugs that you take, and again, I would say do not don't read the research done by the drug company. Okay, they're always going to give the best possible shining light on the situation. Go to a third party. Sometimes FDA has good ones. A lot of times third party, will do the research. But here's a simple reality. A lot of these SSRIs, SNRIs, when you look at the actual research, what they'll say is when people took this drug, 34% of them, compared to the placebo. All right, so some were given a placebo, some were given the actual drug. 37% that took the actual drug improved, in certain standards, and like 17 or 20% improved with the placebo. So what does that tell you?
Some of it's all in our mind.
Some of it literally is, it's in your brain. Like if you could just train your brain to think, oh, I'm taking something to help me. But when I was reading a lot of these details, I was thinking a lot of these drugs that are taking, they're really only effective between 25 and 50% of the people that are actually taking them. And the placebo is usually not too far behind in a lot of the improvements. Again, what I'm sharing with you is do your homework. If you get prescribed a drug, find out what the effectiveness rate is of that drug. Find out what the side effects are of that drug. And the other thing I would say is develop a plan to say, okay, what am I going to do when I get off of this to make sure that I'm going to build new neural pathways to the part of my brain that's in my thinking brain. I'm going to start doing things that will increase the serotonin in my brain and decrease the cortisol in my brain. There are things that you can do to do that. And so, I want people to have hope that you don't have to be on a medication for the rest of your life. You just don't. And the longer you're on a medication, the more that you will have to feel dependent upon that medication just to feel, like I said, a 4 or 5. So with that said, there's a lot of things that you can do on just a regular basic level to increase serotonin. And do you know what they are, Dan?
I've heard that one of them's getting outside. Is that correct?
You are ding, 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 ding. Dan, you're so smart. So there's actually some things, very natural things that your body can do. And again, here are some things I've actually read the research. Again, if you just go to Google Scholar, you can find there are thousands, tens of thousands of research studies on all this kind of stuff. It's amazing. But there was one study that was done. They followed people that just exercised 30 minutes a day to compare to people that took the prescription medication, and people that just exercised 30 minutes a day did better than the group that took the medication. There's proof out there that there's other things that you can do. And that's what I'm trying to say. There's things that you can do. So the first thing I would say is and I will go with these in order. The number one thing you can do to help your body produce more serotonin in your brain is to get good sleep.
Really?
Good sleep. A good night's sleep is one of the most effective things you can do to regulate your brain. There's a reason why when you go to when you're captured and you're a prisoner of war, they will torture you by keeping you awake. Because when you stay awake continually, your brain cannot repair. There's all kinds of studies that have shown that the repair that happens when you're asleep, especially when you get that REM sleep, is just dramatic. I think I've shared this illustration before. My psychology professor in college, he taught at 2 different universities. He had a private practice, was very well known within the Christian psychology world, wrote books, wrote articles, did research. Again, just top-notch guy. I remember him telling us, he said because he practiced a little bit on the college campus, when students would come to see him, the first thing he would tell them to do is, I want you to go home and I want you to, or go back to your dorm, and I want you to get 3 nights of 8 hours sleep in a row. And he said 80% of the time that people would do that, if they followed through and said, I got 3 nights of sleep of 8 hours in a row, he said 80% of the time that people would come back and say, I feel great. 80%. That's significant. Now, when you think about what we're doing now with our screens, right? We have screens now by our beds. We are constantly being activated in our brains to engage in that blue light. Sleep we're seeing it erode in many ways. We're putting computers in our bedrooms, our televisions in our bedrooms. Again, we have handheld devices. So sleep is vital. It is vital to make sure that your brain is producing the right chemicals, the serotonin in your brain. The second one is sun. You need sun. You need a lot of sun. That the vitamin D that your body gets from the sun, it actually travels to your brain, and the brain says, I'm happy. That's the reason why when the sun is out, you are happier, because the more sun that you have, that you're in and around, the more serotonin your brain will produce. So
I'm making a list. Number 1, take a nap. Number 2, move to Florida. I'm loving this.
Or the beach, whatever. You need a lot of sun and especially you need a lot during the summer months, so that when the winter months come and it gets darker, that your body can store a lot of these. It will store vitamin D. Your body has been proven scientifically will store the vitamin D to help release it when it's deficient during the wintertime. Number 3, exercise.
Uh-oh.
You got it. So what are you going to write down now, Dan?
Drove off the cliff there.
Keep writing, Dan. You need a lot of exercise. Not a lot, but I would say 30 minutes a day. If you can get your blood running 20 to 30 minutes a day, or even 3 times a week, you will see a difference. You will notice a difference in your brain activity. There's been literally thousands of studies that have shown the benefits of physical exercise to mental health. I cannot emphasize that enough. And so so when you have a young teenager in your home that is on their screen all night, only getting 4 hours of sleep, not going outside, and laying in bed all day for 12 hours a day, and they're depressed and anxious, you know why. You know why that when, 100 years ago, Dan, when we lived as an agrarian culture primarily, and people are outside most of the day, working in the farm, working outside, sweating, and then going home at night and going to bed because they were tired, that 100 years ago, people were a lot happier. 100 years ago, the mental health was virtually, barely ever heard of a lot of mental health crises or issues going on. And so the way that God has created our bodies to work is to go outside, to be active, to sleep at night. That's really important. The fourth thing, eat properly. Okay, now I'm not a dietitian. I'm not going to tell you what diet to have because, if you want to have that conversation, talk to my wife. She's a health coach. But it has been proven that here's what I would say. And again, I can point you to the studies. If you want me to email them or tell you about them, I can. But the more things that you eat that God creates and the less things that you eat that come in a box or a bag, the better you will be. Because what happens there's more pathways that go from your brain to your gut. I mean, that's why people call the second brain the second brain is your gut. And if the bacteria in your brain or the bacteria in your gut is all off, and you're eating crappy food all day long, then what's happening is it's not sending good signals to your brain. It's not activating the serotonin. So the more food you can eat that God made, the less food that you can eat that man makes, the more mental health serotonin, the more serotonin your brain will produce. The fifth one, socialize. Be around people. Hang out. There's a reason why I did a paper on this last semester that the people that attend church more have greater mental health than people who do not attend church. I actually have the studies that prove it. And one of the reasons they're trying to say, what is it? What is it about it? And there's a lot of theories to that. All they know is that that's what the research shows. But part of it is we are socializing. We're with people and we are singing and we're laughing. And, if you're in that environment that's fairly, warm and inviting, and you're socializing with people. And notice I said socializing. That's not the same as interacting with people online.
Oh, completely different.
It's not activating that part of your brain that's saying, yes, this is good. I'm enjoying this. So you can be online all day long looking at a screen, talking to people, or doing a lot of things.
Texting.
It's not activating the part of your brain that will release and create the serotonin. That's important. You've got to be person to person in a room with other people in order to get the benefit of socialization. And the last one I would say, and this is been proven, is just going for a walk. When you go for a walk, the person that developed there's a therapeutic method called EMDR, and it's about bilateral stimulus in the right side and left side of your brain. And what the scientists realize, every time I go on a walk, I feel better. What is going on? And they actually developed the science of what's going on when you're going for a walk and the parts of your brain that are creating the bilateral stimulus. And so that there's a good thing when you're actually moving, walking, seeing things, engaging in things, you're creating, bilateral stimulus in your brain, and you're moving your body, and it will help you feel better.
And actually, by the way, now you're in my area where I know what I'm talking about. Academics, educational people understand the power of that. There's Norfolk Institute of Learning Disabilities developed a whole process for helping kids with learning disabilities doing bilateral learning. And so walking is one. That's why sometimes they even tell you to go back and learn how to crawl because of the left, right. But also journaling, writing, because you're moving from the left side to the right side of your paper. Playing sports that require that, like tennis, pickleball, ping pong. Those kind of things where you're moving from your left side of your body to your right side of the body. All of those,
you will feel better. And so here's, when I say all this, here's the big takeaway I want you to realize. Don't wait to feel better before you do these things. Do these things so you can feel better. There's a reality of a lot of times we get stuck in this thinking of, I don't feel like doing this. I feel depressed. I feel this. And therefore we do what we feel, and we just feed the continual monster of the neuropathways that are keeping us feeling anxious, feeling depressed, as opposed to saying, I'm going to do something that I do not feel like. I'm going to do something that I'm not emotionally desirous to do. But I know this, if I do this and if I keep doing this, it will help create the chemical. God's created me to do these kinds of things so that when I do them, it will help me feel better.
Yeah. Well, and I think if I could give a challenge here, parents, I hope you're listening to this. One of the things that we're seeing is an explosion in mental health issues, depression, anxiety, and so forth. And all of these areas relate to one thing, the explosion of screen time.
Yes.
And screen time's related to particularly handheld devices and computers.
And which isolates.
Yeah. It does all these things. It robs you of sleep. You don't sleep as well, and you don't sleep as long.
Yep.
And no sun, because
You're
it's
inside.
hard to look at a screen when the sun
Yeah.
is out, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And then you don't exercise.
Nope.
And moving your thumbs, folks, is not exercise. All right? All right. You don't eat properly. What do you do while you're? I mean, there's literally been guys in Korea that died because of a lack of sleep and lack of eating and so forth, and dehydration because they played video games so long. They literally collapsed and died.
Yeah.
But you eat snacks. You eat gummy worms and M&Ms.
Yeah.
But you're not eating non-processed foods.
I need something quick and easy and convenient.
And give me a little jazz. So I'll drink a Red Bull.
Yep.
All right. And then socializing, again, done one-on-one. You're whether you're playing video games or you're just cruising social media, Facebook or whatever, it's an isolated thing. And then obviously if you're inside, you're not walking. Yeah. But so this is good parenting. You are a good parent when you say to your 8-year-old, 12-year-old, 18-year-old, get your butt out of the basement. Get out of your bedroom. Go out.
We're going to do this. I don't care if you feel like it. We're going to do this.
And it's interesting because, that was considered good parenting when I was growing up. And for me, it wasn't screens. And we didn't even have TV enough to be able to watch it.
Yeah.
But it was books.
Yeah.
Or just laying around.
Yeah.
And my mom would say, go outside and do not come in until.
We did it. Yeah. We did the same thing with our kids. Like, we literally be like, you're going outside for an hour and don't come in. And usually the first 5 minutes, they'd pout, oh, this is the worst. But after a while, they're running around, laughing, having a great time.
We would literally sit on the back stoop and pout for about 5 minutes. Next thing you know, we're building forts.
Yeah. So here's what I would hope that every single parent or person listening to this that is maybe wrestling with this, what I would say is try these things that the way that God has wired us to live. Try these first before you would say, man, we've got to take that pill. Do some things that you would say, we're going to do everything possible to do things the natural way, and then we'll evaluate. So I think everything in our core of ourselves is saying, I want relief, I want relief, I want relief. And when you go towards the path of relief, you don't go towards the path of healing. And that's the fundamental problem that most of us have. And
in our next episode, we're going to start looking now at some of the spiritual implications and disciplines that come out of this. And folks, we are not doctors. We're not pretending to be doctors, but some of this is common sense. Some of this is rooted in Scripture. Mm-hmm. Some of this can be found if you'll just simply research. And the other thing is we just need to do some good old-fashioned self-examination. Yeah. Is there anybody who thinks that sitting with your nose 6 inches from a screen for hours at a time is good for any aspect of your life?
That's right.
We are rationalizing our futures away because we will not exercise the self-discipline to make healthy choices. Yeah. So that's been great, Ben. Thank you so much for sharing this with us. As always, we encourage you to contact us if you have any follow-up questions or ideas for future episodes by writing us at lifecharlotte.com. And as always, thank you for joining us, and we'll catch you next time here at Life Talks.